All right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the February 22nd Dreammetrics webinar. So happy to have you here and so thankful that you all have taken the time out of your day to join us. Today, we have a very exciting presentation that we have a very exciting presentation today. But before we get to that, I just want to let you know a few things. You are able to see all of our webinars on our YouTube page at Geometric Support is our YouTube page. All of our past and future webinars are available on there for you to see, review, and review at your own pace to ensure that you're getting the most out of them. Immediately following the webinar, you do also get a survey, a survey link. That survey link tells us you're able to give feedback on the webinar, and you're also able to give us topics that you would like to see in future webinars. I do thank you for those of you who have completed those in the past and those who will complete those in the future. Those are very important to us as you are our users, and we want to make sure that we tailor these webinars to what it is that you need, the information that you need and that you want to see. I know you all love hearing my voice and seeing my face when I show it on camera, but I want to make sure that you're coming here and getting information, not just a good view and nice sounds. So please make sure that you are completing those surveys for us and letting us know what you think and what it is that you want to see. I also wanted to let you know that our Word Expert practice exams are set for release here within the next few days, so be on the lookout for that. Also, our Fusion 360 practice exams will be released by March the 1st, so be on the lookout for that. A few things that we're working on some of our Microsoft 365 in different languages over the next 2 quarters, so be on the lookout for that. And as always, make sure you tune in for our weekly webinars so that you can stay up to date on what we are doing. Our social media page, we do have our Facebook and our LinkedIn pages. So make sure that you are tuned in on those as well to make sure that you have all of the latest information and you stay up to date with what we are doing here at Geometrics. So now let's direct it to today's webinar. What are your students' plans after high school or college? What are the future plans for those within your organization? Those that you are working with, do they have any idea what they are going to do when they exit your room? Are you looking to start the conversations within your classroom, your school, your organization about what they will do when they walk out of your room? Are the courses that they are taking aligning with what they want to do in their future? Do they know what they want to do in their future? Well, again, Geometrics is always thinking about it, and we are always trying to stay on top of what it is that you need. And our partner spotlight for today will assist you with starting those career conversations and helping them to determine what they need to be doing and what they want to do with their future. Self-directed search is here to help. So what is self-directed search, you ask? I'm going to defer to the experts on the line here today to answer that question. We want to welcome Matt Parks, Head of Career Development, and Jaleesa Hardy, Business Development Special from Self-Directed Search to give you the information today. Matt and Jaleesa, welcome.
Thank you, Nicole. Appreciate the introduction and hello to everybody on the call. So we do look after the self-directed search. It's a career assessment tool, the gold standard really in career assessment, educational assessment. We're going to show you a very brief demo at the end of this presentation, but first I'm going to fire through about 10 or 12 slides very quickly to kind of set the stage agnostically for the importance of career assessments and career guidance overall. To start off the presentation, I like to begin with a few premises. So, and one really reassuring or semi-reassuring graphic, it's probably really reassuring would be a better way to say it. On the left side, basically in the last decade or so, about a decade ago, only about half of people were satisfied with their job. If you would ask them in surveys, and there were surveys done by Forbes, how do people feel about their satisfaction of their job? Only half of people responded positively. By the end of 2020, right before the pandemic, that number had risen. People were finding more career fulfillment. They were finding better opportunities. The pandemic hit, and now in the last few months, everyone we know is getting laid off. So that number has peaked and is now going in the other direction. That is not probably all that surprising. Then the next statement, that job stress may lead to anxiety or depression. Career fulfillment is a really important feature as it relates to mental well-being, overall holistic health, right? And so something that I should point out, you see in the bottom right corner of all of our slides, PAR. So Jaleesa and I actually represent a company called PAR, which is Psychological Assessment Resources. We are a 45-year-old mom and pop company with about 100 employees. We have over 500 assessments, most of which, almost all of them really, outside of the one we're going to talk about today, deal with more clinical, behavioral, mental health assessments. So trying to figure out, do you have the need for a special education plan? Do you have anxiety disorders, autism, anything really under the sun that could be considered mental or behavioral health? Within that realm is career assessment. It is a form of psychological assessment. And so that's the one that we look after. But our parent company, that's really kind of our calling card. And many of you on this call may have a relationship with our company in varying degrees because of the other assessments. And some of you may be using the flagship self-directed search that we're going to look at in just a second. But in any case, mental well-being is a really important feature, and career is a huge aspect within that. So finding the career that is fulfilling is really important. It's for many people, it's difficult. It's frustrating. It's hard. And the services of a career counselor, whatever you want to define as a career counselor, can be helpful. The thing is, students don't always take you up on that, even if they have the resource available, and many of them do not. But even if they do, some people find it imposing, threatening, scary. They just don't ask for help. And so the last premise is really the one that we want to focus on today. The idea that valid, scientific, time-tested career assessments can serve a really important role in an individual discovering what is it that's in it for them career-wise. What are the things that motivate them, excite them? And if these assessments themselves can be fun, or the reporting mechanism that they receive when they're done can be fun, that can really help buy-in. And so we'll take a little look at that in just a second. A couple of things to fly through here. Not shockingly, people who make more money report they have a higher job satisfaction. Doesn't mean it's the end all be all. Clearly, we all know plenty of people who are rich and miserable, and people who are poor and happy. But overall, when you look at the the standard deviations and such, more income does tend to equate with more job satisfaction. But what it doesn't necessarily do, and many on the call may be able to attest to this too, is give you meaning, the importance of your career, giving you an identity. And again, over half of people, when asked, don't find their job to be meaningful, which is kind of in and of itself a shocking revelation. But that's something that we can try to help with, and that career assessments can help with. How does education fit into this, right? I mean, many people on this call are probably educators, or interact with educators, or are students themselves, or work with students. When asked why people go to college, and it says education here, really the clarification point is post-secondary ed. So this is not necessarily a 4-year school, a 2-year school, a trade school. It could be any variety of post-secondary ed. Overwhelmingly, probably not that shockingly, the top 3 reasons people say they go to college, broadly speaking, post-secondary school that is related to making a better living, finding a better job, finding a fulfilling career. And that's true. That was true in 2015. It was also, and that's across all education sort of platforms, but it's still true in 2020 at UCLA, a tier 1 research school, where theoretically maybe people would go to a university for something other than a pure one-to-one, I'm going to school to get a job, right? I mean, certain I'm not going to wade into this discussion or this debate, but like obviously there are varying types of higher education, post-secondary education, and no matter who they are, when you ask the students, if you look at the 85% that's bolded, they're saying, even at UCLA, and at every school in between, they're going overwhelmingly to get a job or to get a good job. So that's great for higher ed and post-secondary ed, but what about people in K-12? Well, that's what school counselors are for, right? Well, not entirely, because school counselors, when you ask them, say, yeah, I was trained as a school counselor, to counsel students and ideally help them, among other things, with their career paths. But the thing is, I'm doing cafeteria duty, or I'm teaching algebra because we're undermanned. And so overwhelmingly, school counselors, and even if you look at their learning outcomes and such from their governing bodies, they're not doing career counseling really almost at all anymore. Not because they don't want to. They just don't have the ability to. They're spread too thin. So how do career assessments fit in? If counselors can't do it, if students go to college or if over half the people are unhappy with what they're doing in life, what is it about their selection process that's keeping them from making the quote unquote right? And right's the wrong word, probably more fulfilling and satisfying decisions career-wise. So career assessments can be a really important part of that. And the way they fit in is basically by trying to help you figure out what suits you, and typically based on your interest. Might use values, might use skills, some combination of all of these things. But what are the things that motivate you, that interest you, that make you want to pursue an activity, whether it be career, vocation, leisure, what have you? And so career assessments are a really important part of that. And there's lots of different types. There's lots of different kinds. A few of them that you see on the screen right here are some of them are, I would say, reputable. I'm not to suggest that others are not, but there are a lot of kind of fly by night, take a Facebook quiz and says you should be a nurse. Great, I'm going to be a nurse. But there's really no science behind it. All the ones that you see on the screen are time tested. They have different methodologies. Some are free, some are premium, some are a little deeper than others. But all of these are ones that you would probably be in pretty good shape, at least considering or utilizing. And that's really the thesis of this particular presentation. We're going to do another one in a couple of weeks. That's going to be a deep dive into the SDS so that you can see all the bells and whistles. And to be clear, we will do a preview of that as well today. So you'll see some of the more exciting aspects of the report that you receive when you take the assessment. But the message I want to share is if you're not already using one, or if you're in a position to help people where you might be able to impart some wisdom or just even give them an opportunity to try to help them figure out what they should do, career assessments are a great way to do that. In the absence of them, people typically just go on what their parents say or what a friend of the family who they respect says. And by the way, that's not a terrible thing, especially if you have nothing else to use your basis for. But if you could identify scientifically in a valid manner the things that actually align with you and who you are, wouldn't that be a potentially much better way to decide something that is important as what career do you want to pursue? And so while those are some of the ones out there, the one we're going to focus on and the one that we're happy to be partnering with G-Metrix on is the self-directed search. What is it? It's a career assessment exploration tool. It takes you about 20 minutes, maybe on the high side, sometimes as short as 15. That's going to ask you tons of questions like, what do you like to do with your free time? Or not what do you like to do, but do you like to work with your hands? Do you enjoy working with people? Do you understand the concept of gravity? All these like binary questions that bam, 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 you answer yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. You click submit. It's a quick online test, and it gives you a report that we're going to look at in a second that's extremely robust, has a ton of resources that can help you make your decision. And the green bullet there, matching aspirations and talents, that's really what this is all about, is we ask you some questions, and we then take the answers to your questions and use them to match your career opportunities and educational opportunities, because this test can be utilized for people as young as age 11, incidentally. So there are tests, it's the same test for everybody, but the report that you will receive when you're done, it could be for what we call a student, which is under 18, an adult, which is over 18, or a veteran. So if there's anybody on this call who works with veterans or knows someone who does, the SDS is a great tool for all of those parties, I guess we'll say. And that's the name of the game is to match your aspirations and talents with the jobs and educational opportunities that are out there. One thing to be aware of is it doesn't take any special training or certification to administer this test. Some career assessments out there do, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just noteworthy because sometimes you have to pay several $100s a year to be certified, or to have anybody on your staff who's going to administer it be certified. There's some record keeping and accreditation and standards and such. The SDS, the guy who created it, who we're going to talk about in just a second, felt very strongly, John Holland is his name, that people ought to be able to take a test like this and not need the full-blown oversight of a guidance professional, for lack of a better term, an advisor, if you will. He wasn't opposed to them. In fact, he was one himself and felt very strongly that the profession was a noble one and extremely valuable. But he felt like this might be your only chance. You may, as I mentioned earlier, just because you have access to professionals, if you do have access to professionals who can help, you may not choose them. If you went to college, if you're on this call, you knew you had a career center on your campus, did you ever go? You may or may not have. And if you didn't go, you might not have because you had to make an appointment and physically go yourself. It wasn't something that they taught you in the classroom. And that's what we're hoping this partnership can do for some of the folks on this call and some of the partners that ultimately take up the SDS in their within their G-Metrix relationship, within their G-Metrix account, is that This is a tool that you can use with your students right away, or your employees, or whoever the makeup of your organization is that could benefit from having a career assessment, help them figure out what to quote unquote do with their lives. So it's based on something called RIASEC theory. You may have come across this in your life at some point. It is an extraordinarily well-researched methodology. The guy that created it, again, John Holland is his name. He has some cachet in the psychological community, but whether you know his name or not, what you might know is this hexagon. And the hexagon is essentially 6 personality types that he identified. Starting in around World War II, he started doing research when he came out of the Army. He noticed that a lot of military occupations had certain attributes that seemed to be almost uniform, right? Almost predictably present in each person who did them. If they were a gunnery or an artillery guy, or if they were a military police officer, or whatever the job may be, they had a certain makeup, right? And so he started researching that idea, what he called vocational preference, and ended up coming up with this RIASEC theory. It says there are 6 types of personalities: realistic, investigative, artistic, social, enterprising, conventional. All of us have all of those attributes, but we have varying degrees of each. And to the degree that we can identify the ones that are your quote unquote strengths, or the ones that you exhibit the most, those align with personality types of occupations. The careers have these attributes within them. And so we want to marry up your personality with the careers that have those. Not that earth-shattering in terms of the goal, but in terms of practice, it's not easy to do. And this gentleman spent his life's work creating this theory and researching largely all the occupations. What sort of attributes did they have? What makes this job a realistic job, or an artistic job, or a conventional job, or whatever the case may be? I was alluding to the researched element of this. So John Holland and the RIASEC theory has been cited over 2,000 times in periodicals, academic journals, research publications, etc. It's quite ubiquitous. It's really it's everywhere, and it's likely that you've come across that hexagon elsewhere, because other career assessments use elements of RIASEC theory in their platforms and their tools, as they probably should, because of what's on the screen here. The idea that this stuff is really pretty solid. It's scientific. It's backed by decades and decades of research. The difference about our test is that John Holland wrote this test. And so the guy that decided and did all the research to figure out which occupations matched which personality types, he's the one that also wrote the questions. And that's a pretty important distinction. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. Who uses the SDS? So probably some of the people on this call match some of these descriptions. A lot of people do, but ultimately the person that uses it is really the test taker, or the student, or the professional, the person looking for an occupation, a career. And so the people on the screen are usually are advisory professionals, persons, stakeholders in their lives. They may have some of these different titles. They may be CTE educators, or K-12 teachers, or counselors, etc. But lots of people use the SDS with lots of their constituents and their clients, if you will, whether those clients are students or patients in a counseling facility, or whatever the case may be. It's a quite ubiquitous list, and lots of people use the SDS. We hope some of you will be some of those. So let me do a very quick preview of the SDS itself. I'm not going to show you the assessment, but only because it's kind of mundane. As I was mentioning, it's a lot of binary questions, like, do you like to work with people? Yes or no. Are you good with your hands and like to build things? Yes or no. Lots of questions like that. When we ask you the series of questions in the assessment, when you're done, you click submit, and it takes you to this screen. And I'm demonstrating my own report here, so no privacy violations or anything like that. But this SDS says that I am enterprising, social, and investigative. Well, that's great, but what the heck does that mean? Yeah, I told you there's such a thing as these 6 personality types, but what do we mean by these things? So the first thing we do is, after we give the person their Holland code, their summary code, if you will, we give them a crash course in this RIASEC theory, the 6 personality types, and we plot their 3 strongest attributes if they're over 18. And since we're seeing 3, but if you're under 18, it'll only plot 2, because you'll see in a second, it corresponds to a list of occupations. And the older you are, the rationale is that you're more potentially sophisticated and understand maybe more about the lengths that a particular occupation might go to. The easiest way to say that is, let's say my job was accountant. Well, if I'm 12, I may not need to know that corporate controller is an accounting job, as is chief financial officer. Probably good enough to know at 12 years old, accountant is a job I might want to consider, and maybe start researching accounting as a profession. That's the main difference between what the students get and what the adults get. So while we're exhibiting or we're demoing my report, and mine is an adult report, or what we call the standard SDS report up here, the major difference is the 2-letter code versus the 3-letter code. But in terms of the science behind it and everything, there's really no difference at all. But just really quickly, we want to look at your code and say, okay, ESI is my code. Enterprising. Well, what does enterprising mean? I have an idea. Maybe you have an idea, but let's all make sure we agree on it. Well, for the purposes of this assessment, enterprising means that you like to work with people and ideas more than with things. You're usually described as outgoing, adventurous, energetic, optimistic, sociable, and self-confident. Now, as people look at this, and as I look at my own, I nod my head and I go, yeah, that's me. It definitely speaks to the way that I am and what things I like to do and how I think and all that stuff. Almost overwhelmingly, everybody will have that experience. They'll look at their letters, and by the way, if you want to see the others, you can just kind of hover, and it'll populate what's on there, and you can see what it is to be conventional or what have you. But your 3 letters will be up there. You read them, you look at them, and you go, okay, that's me. Incidentally, occasionally, some people will say, I don't think that is me. I think I'm way more artistic. You said I'm not. We have a way to mitigate that. We have a way to make sure that everybody who takes this assessment comes out of this with something for them, that they don't feel like this thing didn't understand me. But what we do, and this will be probably the last thing that I'll preview for today's purposes, is this occupational list. And this is really where the meat of the actual experience resides. So we got my code. I understand what it is. I'm ESI. Well, what the heck does that mean? I learned about those, what those attributes are. And why I wanted people, and why I say we like people to think about this and to take a look at them and understand them, is that we're now going to ask them to take on faith. We know what to do with that. And what I mean by that is every job now that we see in this list is unique to me or to people that have my code. And by the way, all the different combinations of my 3-letter code. And the reason we do that is because some codes have very few jobs associated with them. And some codes have an inordinate amount of jobs associated with them, and every point in between. There's really no way to manipulate that. In fact, you wouldn't want to. If you're adhering to this theory, you'd be like, well, why would I? I mean, the whole point is to figure out what does my personality mean and what jobs fit me. And so some people are going to get an experience like me, where I got a ton of jobs, and probably they're going to think to themselves, perhaps they'll think to themselves, that's a lot of jobs. That's maybe too many jobs. I don't really want to research all those jobs. Other people will get like 10 jobs, and they'll say the opposite and say, that's it. That's all there is for me. You crazy? Like, that's not enough. I want to look at some more other things. So we have ways to handle all that. Again, we're going to do a deeper dive in a subsequent webinar, but I just want to show you very quickly the bells and whistles. So as you see the occupations here, you can go through and say, show me that, I really like that. And any point in time, you can go back and just say, show me those ones, which were already pre-identified as part of the greater list. Incidentally, when I clear this out and I go back to my list here, even though my list is quote unquote long, it's coming from a universe of 1,400 occupations. So by no means is this the full gamut of jobs. Clearly, or to be clear, it's only ones that fit my 3-letter code or the 3-letter combinations. But if I don't know what the job is, and that's really where the strength of this report is in what its resources do for you. Let's say I don't know what a compliance manager is, right? Conceivable, especially if I'm maybe 12, 13, 14, even 18, 20. Maybe I've never heard of that. So when you click on the job, it will launch ONET, which is, for those that don't know, a very high-level overview of ONET is it's a U.S. Department of Labor website. It's really an occupational clearinghouse. Tells you everything you could ever hope to know about what a compliance manager is. What are the tasks, the skills, the activities? I mean, look at how deep the data is. There's just tons and tons, skills, knowledge, education required, everything you could hope to know. When you look at that, you go, oh, now that I've taken a look at compliance manager, I think I do want to incorporate that into my short list. Or no way, now that I've seen what a compliance manager is, I do not want to do that. So that's a real powerful tool, because in real time, you can figure out, hey, I don't even know what this job is. I can do some research, figure out, yeah, that sounds like something I would like to do. I'm glad I found it. Or no way, now that I've seen that. These next 4 columns are all sort of similar ways to filter down your list. You can go through and pick only certain codes. So if you have a lot of codes like I do, maybe you want to get rid of the ones that don't begin with your first letter. And boom, this just got a lot shorter. Also, you could say, look, I'm interested in going to post-secondary school. So don't show me jobs that only require a high school. So I could eliminate a few there. Or maybe I say, I'm not going to grad school. I'm going to go to college, or I'm going to go to whatever I'm going to do. And when you click apply, it'll eliminate again and drill down that much more closely, so that the jobs that now are showing are ones that are more relevant to me. Same thing with career cluster. Maybe you say to yourself, and these, by the way, are aligned according to CTE standards. So maybe you say, I'm only interested in jobs that fall into these particular categories for whatever reason. And when you click that, it will update again. And now, wow, look at how small my list just got. It just a minute ago, it had like 70, 80 jobs, and now it's got 5 or 6. The Outlook column is another one we can talk about, but the last 2 things I want to show you super quick are the salary data. So I've decided, hey, that job's up my alley, fitness and wellness coordinator or estate planner. Well, what do these jobs pay? What it'll show you is a very quick preview from Career One Stop, which is a Bureau of Labor Statistics website, again, part of the DOL, Department of Labor. It tells you the 25th to the 75th percentile of the salary data in your local zip code, if it exists, the Florida, or in my case, I live in Tallahassee, I should say. So Tallahassee, Florida. So this is showing you Tallahassee, 25th to the 75th, Florida, because that's my state, and the US average. And maybe I came into this thinking I'm only going to look for jobs that pay 70 grand. Well, great. When I see this, not a very high likelihood that I can make that. So maybe I'm going to rule that one out if it was on my short list. But maybe financial manager, whoa, that's way more valid. I think I'll consider that. So this is how the student would, or the test taker would use this information in real time very quickly to synthesize and say, hey, didn't even know this job existed a minute ago. Now I'm kind of keen on actually going through it. There is a ton, or pursuing it. There's a ton more information within here. There's a lot on education. There's a lot on salary and income. There's a lot on career clusters and how to find other occupations that are related to the ones that you found. But I want to pause now and throw it back over to Nicole, because again, we're going to do a deeper dive into this report, but today's really the goal was to give you a little bit of a preview, to talk about the importance of career assessments, and to show you why this one is an exciting one and why G-Metrix and the SDS are partnering together. So with that, I will stop yapping at you guys and throw it back to Nicole.
Thank you so much, Matt. Whew, that was a lot of good information in that time period. I'm so excited that you and Jaleesa could be here today. Thank you for joining us. I want to invite you to stay connected with us through the G-Metrix Facebook and LinkedIn pages. Also, like and subscribe to the G-Metrix official YouTube page to receive instant alerts of new content postings, review previous webinars, and our FAQ channel, where we will be posting videos addressing the most frequently asked questions. If you have a FAQ that you would like us to do a video for, please make sure to include that on their survey.